Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us at today's webinar, Financial Literacy for Canadian Newcomers. My name is Gavin O'Young. I'm the content developer for Career Loans. I'm joined by Phillip Wilkins, who's a financial educator from Credit Counselling Society. For those who did sign up, we originally did have Amanda Martin scheduled. Something came about, but we're glad to have Phillip joining us today. I'll be introducing Phillip later, but before we do that, I do want to give a brief introduction about the Career Loans program. Who are we? What do we do? And to do that, we have a short video I'd like to play.
Are you a permanent resident, convention refugee, or Canadian citizen residing in Alberta or Saskatchewan? Are you an internationally trained individual in a regulated or non-regulated occupation? If you are not finding a job in your field, need career counseling, are unable to secure funds for training, or have been declined for traditional loans, then Career Loans can help. Career Loans is a virtual program that has partnered with HSBC Canada to provide financial counseling, career counseling, loans of up to $15,000, referrals to employment services, alternative career advice, and a guide to the accreditation process. Our expert counselors will coach you on your career goals and enable you to reach your full potential. If you would like to apply for a loan, our counselors will refer you to our financial partner, HSBC Canada. After assessing your financial situation, if you are eligible, your loan will get approved. You then have up to 4 years to pay off your loan at an affordable, locked-in interest rate. This way, you don't have to worry about increasing interest rates or being buried under rising debt. Throughout the process, our expert counselors will be available to guide, mentor, and ensure you are on the right path to achieving your career goals.
So that's just a little bit about the Career Loans program. As for today's schedule, I'll be introducing our guest speaker, Phil, who will then be giving the big presentation, Financial Literacy for Canadian Newcomers. That's expected to be about an hour. And afterwards, I'll come back with a short info session about how Career Loans can help internationally trained individuals return to a desired career. A short info session. After that, we will have the Q&A session. So please, anytime throughout the webinar, if you have questions for us, for Phil, let us know, and we'll be happy to answer them during that Q&A session. So that's about it for the schedule. I want to invite Phil to turn on the camera, and I'm going to introduce him by reading this wonderfully prepared bio. How's it going, Phil?
There we are. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Good, good. Hello, everybody. Good, thank you, Gavin. Doing well.
All right, so our guest speaker today is Phil. Phil is a financial educator and a counselor in the Greater Toronto Area, specializing in financial institution relations. After 20 plus years in banking and the financial services industry, he has transitioned to the nonprofit sector and has found the perfect home at Credit Counselling Society. With a BA in economics, numerous credits and portfolio risk management courses, Phil topped his growth by raising 4 sons and enlisted his teaching and coaching talents into a baseball instructor, steering several teams to provincial appearances with 2 All-Ontario championships and a high school regional victory. With a passion to succeed and a sincere love for his job, Phil rounds out his work-home balance by ensuring clients and Credit Counselling Society team members come first. There's no financial situation that doesn't have a solution. No client will be belittled, ignored, or pressured. Together, we are the answer. Thanks for joining us today, Phil.
You're welcome. Thanks very much for the wonderful introduction. I'm just going to get us set up here, okay? I'll get my screen going. And thanks again, Gavin hit it right on the money. It's a good presentation we have for you right now. And at the end, when questions do arise, do not hesitate. Make sure you do ask. Okay, I will shut my screen off in a second. We've got to make sure we get the right one going for you. I think this is the one we had right there. How's that?
It looks good. All right, take it away, Phil.
Super, thank you. Now, everybody can see, just so that you know, we are not on a version or a show called Hoarders. Behind you, we're in my basement right now. I was just telling Gavin with a smile on my face, this is info central for me. And I have a bright office upstairs, but to get to where we need to go, I come down here in my private spot. So you don't need to see all this. I've got 3 screens going here. So I will just take my camera and just shut it off here. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, again, welcome. You've heard about Credit Counselling Society. So glad that Gavin's PowerPoints have counseling with 2 L's as well in the Canadian version. Yeah, and welcome. Now, as we go through the presentation, and we're going to have questions later on, one additional thing that we were talking about is, should you have a question that you just forgot to ask, or if something comes up later on, you go, oh, you know what, darn, I really could use a little conversation to this, and you need to reach out to us. Gavin's got our contact information. He will be sharing with you. Please feel free to ask, okay? If you need to have a chat with us, myself included, just let Gavin know. We're good with that, okay? Again, we're a not-for-profit group. What you see at the bottom of the screen there, we help, we educate, we give hope. And I have a particular passion for this particular area. It's something I came up through the banking world, in the lending and collecting world, and financial planning. So I've got not just the experience there, I also help write a couple manuals. And quite frankly, I still keep a couple fingers in that particular pie. It's what I like to do. Anyways, so here we go. I promised I will not speak too fast. I get very excited about my topics, but here we go. Money basics for new Canadians. Okay? And it comes down to where we're going to take this. We've had a conversation as to who we are. We're not for profit. We are dedicated to the education and, if necessary, helping people take care of debts that they do have some difficulty with. We have lots of resources. We have webinars like this one here, of course, and we have a catalog of others. And now that Gavin and his group are our client, so are you ours, and our material to Gavin's clients is free. So what we're going to talk about today, well, it's kind of a simple conversation, yet it's so very, very necessary. We're going to talk about the Canadian banking system from about 30,000 feet up, right? We're going to touch on the savings, the credit, avoiding scams, and also where to turn for some resources when you need more information, okay? Simple agenda. And of course, at the end of this particular session, what I sincerely hope is it's not just being able to kind of visualize, chat a little bit about the banking system, but understand there's a couple key points in there. And I'm hoping with my background, what we can also do is break down maybe a couple myths that are in the back of your mind and write them down. If you hear something, oh, I should ask about this, jot it down. Like Gavin said, get it in the chat box so we can address it, okay? I find a lot of leverage there because sometimes there's just stuff that we hear and it's nice to know whether or not it's for real or was it just a commercial talking, right? It's always good to know. Excuse me. And I hope everybody's got a drink with them. I have a little warm tea just as my throat does tend to get dry, okay? All right. So let's talk about banking and savings, okay? We're going to talk about what's offered out there. What does our banking system offer? Well, how do they present this to us? Well, it's kind of very simple, right? Well, first of all, if you will, I can tell you that you know what the bank system looks like. You get into a bank, you need some basic services. Checking accounts are places to park money, to use it day to day, rather. That's the idea. I say park it. It's a temporary. It's like you put your loonie in, you got 15 minutes right before it's gone out the other door again. But that's what checking account. That's made for our day-to-day business. Doesn't collect a lot of interest, if any. It is for high-end transactions. And you probably noticed that there's a variety out there, from, again, new Canadian packages to things as even like simply financial, a division of CIBC, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, that offer accounts that literally have no fees attached to them. And you can ask, how can they do that? Well, first of all, I think it's the righteous thing to do because they do make lots of money. But the reality is, of course, is that it's places like Simply Financial it's like a mini company for the Bank of Commerce. It will get you in the door. It gets your main banking with them. And from there, they're hoping from there, 7 out of 10 of us will build it into more than that. Right? Savings accounts is an account that's really what we wanted to do was give you a place to park excess cash that you would need for future, right? That was the idea of offering 2 types of accounts. Of course, remember that fees vary, holds may be in place. You got to be make sure aware of what you need. We have the big 5 here in Canada. If you remember who they are, RBC, Royal Bank, CIBC, as I mentioned, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, Scotiabank or BNS or Scotia, TD Canada Trust, and BMO or Bank of Montreal. Now, there's a couple other smaller ones. There's Laurentian Bank, a National Bank of Canada, which will be like NBC. They're all full service banks that are governed by the bank charter, and their money is insured these particular institutions up to $100,000 in total deposits, okay? Now, you also have credit unions here in Canada. They're operated a little bit differently. The Canadian banks, the Bank Act is a federal governance. Well, the credit unions are provincial, up to $250,000. Well, they say it's almost unlimited what's insured through them. But the bottom line is the credit unions operate just a little bit differently. They are member run. In other words, those of us that want to use their services, we pay a membership fee to them. So anybody who's working with a credit union right now, you can attest to this. And that membership fee gives you certain, I'm going to call them rights within their 4 walls, okay, if you will. You pay the fee, you become a member, and then from there, your services are just the same as the banks. Maybe the difference is that when it comes time for voting in directors, you can actually have a direct say in that. We're not going to go down that path because right now what we want to establish is that there's ways for you and I to bank money, save money, and to borrow money, what I call from the more legit sources. And of course, like an HSBC is a really good bank for this too, is that most of the banks are bilingual. And what was really pleasing to a person like myself is watching the various areas of cities where you have a community that will share a language. And the banks recognize this and there are staffing, and they should be staffing those particular branches accordingly. It just makes a ton of sense, right? And of course, if you can't get that, if you do struggle with that, like a language barrier, they have a phone and number as well that you can call in and they will get you the assistance that you need. Okay. Now, well, the last note on this particular page is beware of fees and holds. When you operate any account, these institutions will tell you that, of course, it takes money to run an account. Get the computer software to buy, or hire the people to write the languages, et cetera, et cetera. I think you get that. So any account you open, other than the ones, there are some that have no fees, especially savings account, will have a fee at certain levels. So just make sure that when you're into your institution and you're discussing your needs, they offer you accounts that make sense to you. Again, and I'll go back to this. They can be some like new Canadian accounts that will have new business accounts that will offer you no fees for maybe several months and maybe for a couple of years. Just if they're offered, please do take advantage of them. It is money directly in your pocket. And for our conversation right here, especially, there's nobody in the world that loves to keep money in your pocket more than I do. I'm believe me, I worked there. I was all about that. The happier my clients were, the more likely you were to stay with me. And anytime you transfer funds, and this is one to be aware of. I don't know if you're sending money back home, if you've got family around, friends, you want to transfer some money around, be aware that if you go to transfer funds, they will hold your account. That process can be delayed. It can be for a couple hours. It can be for a couple days, depending on the amount. Yes, there's reasons for it. Of course there is. If the banks make sure that the money is available and that they allow it to internally clear, if you will, you'll make sure that the systems say, yep, it's good to go. They have the money, let it go. And then it'll move out of your bank to where it needs to go. Now, how about a smaller version of this? Anybody have a credit card, never gone paid for gas at the pump with your credit card? If you did you notice, have you ever checked out what your balance is after that? Did you know that they put a hold on it? It's very often a standard $500. It can be $200 to $500. If you go to buy a room, like book a room at a hotel, at an inn, and you want to book for a night, standard hold, $500. They essentially tie up that amount of money so you can't access it until that particular bill is paid. They'll take what they need. If you don't run up $500, of course they'll release the rest of it, but it's just a way for them to protect so that they don't overdraw your account or the transaction does not get refused for lack of funds. I'm not saying I agree with it, okay? Again, it's just the way they operate. So if you're paying for gas, if those that do drive, for example, there is a way to circumvent that particular charge. Now, during COVID, this is very difficult, so I'm not recommending doing this, but one of the ways to get around that hold was to put your gas in. You want to pay with your credit card, go in, pay it inside. They'll take what they need right away. Outside is kind of a whole process. You could, especially if you're running tight and you need the rest of your limit for another purchase, you may not be able to do it because it'll hold it for a couple of days before it releases. Okay, it's just the way it operates. All right, now opening an account, is it simple? Well, it is. Opening an account, see, under the bank charter, for them to maintain the charter, in other words, the right to be called a chartered bank in Canada, they do have to offer some basic things to Canadians. And under that charter, it says that you can open an account with any bank as long as you are able to provide with them proper identification. Okay, that's what you really need. You don't have to have a job. You could even have bad credit. If you're not applying for anything when you're opening an account, they may want to do a little check on you to see if they can run give you a little bit of overdraft, like a little extra, which is a form of a loan. But you don't have to agree to it. You say, no, I just want an account. That's all I want. Bottom line, okay, that's all you need. Now, where it could get complicated, and again, it's not about us here today. We know we're not on that side of the coin, but if there was any issue you had, and for example, say you're going to open an account at the TD, Canada Trust, as I said, and you had debt problems with them in the past. I'll explain this more, or put it in the chat if you want this explained more. But if, for example, if you went bankrupt and you owed them money that you never paid them back, or you were involved in a fraud case and they were one of the victims and you're reestablishing yourselves, anything that severe, they don't have to open an account for you. They don't. But really, that is such an odd occurrence that for the most part, I can talk to 1,000 Canadians. I might, and I'm emphasizing, I might get one that may come under that particular issue. So, but that's their job. Banks have to open you a basic account as long as you have the proper identification. Okay, good, and which is very helpful. Now, our accounts here in Canada, of course, automation is a huge piece, and everybody, ladies and gentlemen, with me today, we know that COVID has made us never more aware of how much we can actually use, and probably are using anything to bring it to our door, right? Ordering, Amazon purchases, Uber Eats, Uber delivers. I don't know. I just wish Uber would come clean up my house for me, but I can't seem to find that service. Anyways, but you get where I'm going with this, right? All kinds of stuff is happening. Now, automation takes lots of different forms as well. You can have benefits or paid course go directly into your account. You can have payments come automatically out. All you got to do is get online. You see the services. You can pay your gas bills, utility bills. You can pay loans. You can pay. Did you know that if you owe the CRA money, you can pay them automatically out of your account too? It's just a matter of finding these people or these entities on a drop-down list. It's probably right now, as long as you're under their safe umbrella, right, under their secured site, it is one of the most progressive things they've done to help us do our banking in years. I mean, in years. Now, it is incumbent. It is really super important on us that you remember that you look after your own affairs. We know it, right? I'm responsible for me. I get it. And really, in this particular world, the same. Make sure that you're checking into your account often enough to track things going in and coming out. Make sure it agrees with what you know to be true for your situation. And a quick story to this, okay? And then this is the problem when you get to be my age. I counsel too many people, too many stories. I'll keep them short. Counseling an individual that was stuck and couldn't understand. They had run some debts up, and we got talking and said, well, Phil, I really don't know what's happening. So we got his bank statement out. We were looking through it. It looked reasonable. It was very, very busy. There's lots of stuff on it. So when we sat down, I said, well, because we did this virtually at first, this is several years ago. So we'll come into my office, and he brought in the printout. It was quite lengthy, actually. And he was very much into automation, which is terrific. Well, what had happened was he had lost his, somebody stole his identity, had put a bug into his laptop, which had him, every time he did a transaction online, it would go and make an alternate one, a transfer out for just under any amount. Like if he was averaging, say, $50 or $70 per transaction, it would come out a couple times a week just under that. So no bells would go off. You're talking $3,000 later, he finally gets on this. Problem was, he wasn't checking it often, and he let it go for about, I think it was about 2.5 months. So could he have caught it earlier? Probably, because those particular withdrawals didn't make sense. So, but if you're on top of it and you pick the number of times that match your schedule, how often you do it. For example, if you're paid every week, there's nothing wrong with sitting down on payday, quiet time to yourself, whether you want a glass of wine, a cup of tea, doesn't matter. You know, the kids are in bed if you have them. Make sure you do it by yourself. Look at what came in the door, your money that came in. Yeah, I'm paying my bills, and just check your bank account so that the transactions match what you know to be true. Okay. Basically, that's what I wanted to run down that with you. Okay, so I'll keep moving on. Now, don't forget about a couple things here in Canada, because often we bump into some basic concerns and we just forget things. And it's not necessarily intentional. It just happens. Life happens, right? You know this. I know this. Life happens, and it can happen quickly. Remember that. Don't forget your taxes, right? We say you're required to file them every year. There's tons of reminders out there. We know that. Make sure it's done. If you know what the time limits are, you've got until March the 1st. Like, those are familiar with doing it. First of all, they've got to be done by April the 30th. But if you want to take advantage of some RSP rules, you've got until March the 1st to make all your associated RSP deposits to take advantage of those for that particular year. More information on this, absolutely talk to your bank, talk to your bank source on the inside, and have a chat with them about what do I need to do? Can you give me any advice, etc. Okay, or those that have other planners, get them involved in this. All right. If you need any assistance, everybody, there are free programs out there that will help you file your taxes. And if you've noticed, lo and behold, the CRA has come up, and we have looked at this and done some testing. It's relatively basic, but they also offer a free filing app that works. What we're really doing, what we're seeing here is these entities are opening the doors. They're making it easier for all of us to be able to do the right thing, if you will. And of course, as you can tell, I'm talking. I'm righteous as you are, and I don't want to ever miss my tax year. But it's really nice to know that if I do stumble, I can reach back to them and say, I kind of missed. What have you got to help me out? They have things, and likewise. As a short note here as well, while we do help people that do have debt issues, when we have to work with the CRA, see, they operate different than other lenders out there. They are ones that can just kind of say to a bank, has he got an account there? All right, freeze it, let them know. At the end of the month, we're taking all the money. They can do it without getting a lawyer involved with the courts. But what we found too is that when you try to work with them, if something's ever happened, you've stumbled and you say you owe a bit of money, they are prepared to work with you as long as you're reasonable. You know, unfortunately, they're people too. And if you get involved in a face-off with them, a little, we call it tete-a-tete, you bump heads, you're less likely to get cooperation, and they want things resolved really quickly. But we've had tremendous success working, even with the individuals, saying that they really appreciate the fact that Canadians step up. Got a situation, gonna deal with it. Good for you. Get it done. All right. And good that we have resources to get these things done for free too. Now, when all that aside, we've got to remember, and here this comes from our experience again too. If we're talking to people that have had debt issues, you say, well, Phil, what's the number one reason? We've got top 7 reasons, but when we are not able, and I'll say that again, when we're not able to accumulate just a little buffer, you know, a little savings, a little stash on the side, we are very vulnerable to the life happens thing. Even getting $1,000 in an account, and it may take a bit of time, absolutely, but even $1,000 can help head off a lot of issues just by having some money there. You know, for example, I've used this. Those of us that may have, let's say, have a family out of province or out of country. Now, granted, we know traveling right now is really frowned upon, but let's go back to a quasi-normal, okay, kind of way of life. And if something happens to a family member and we need to go quickly, well, having $1,000 aside, what will it do? Pay for a ticket return? Yeah, it will. A bit of cash if needed? Yep. You might need more, but at least it'll get you there. And it's $1,000 less that you have to borrow if you need more. So it's a start. That's what we're talking about. A savings account is a good place to siphon money off a little bit at a time to help build that up. All right. There's other things that are involved here as well, because saving money, there is that we call the emergency fund, if you will, the emergency stash, right? That's the stuff on the side for what I just described. You can put money aside for a purchase coming up, but there's other big needs. You know, staying here in Canada, we're working our way through life. The pensions that are offered through the government, should we qualify, how do I say this? They're not lucrative. If you have a spouse, the two of you together, you heard Gavin said I got, you know, very 4 boys. I've told them my retirement plan, I'm living in your basement. That's how I'm going to save some money. And they laugh at me and they don't, you know, I say, you can't move. I know where you're going to end up. So don't try that. But I mean, all kidding aside, how else can you bolster? Because there are very few places, and if you've got one, hang on to it, or you get one, grab it, but there are very few places that offer any kind of a pension. At one time, it was much more predominant. By way of the dodo bird, they're gone. So anything we can do to help bolster up a bit of savings or a bit more income when we retire is ideal. RSPs, you've heard about them. They are a good way to go. RRSPs is a concept. It's basically a savings account with a rule attached to it, so that when it comes tax time, the government knows and the bank knows money's going to earn interest in here, or what a mutual fund is going to earn, and what it does, it earns. You're not going to tax me on, and as long as it's there, whatever I put into an RRSP, you're going to take that off my income because I had to take it from someplace, so it reduces my taxable income. It's kind of like a double save. Where might it bite you in the butt? Well, it's just make sure that the RRSP, should you, or you're thinking about getting into one, it matches where you need to go. For example, if you know, I'm just using the car, don't know if it's on your plans, but I'm just looking for something that's a little bit more of a major purchase here, okay? Let's say it was a reality, and there's a vehicle purchase of that nature coming up in the relatively near future. If you are putting all your money into the RRSP, you're saving money. You're saving it, absolutely you are. But to get it out again, then you got to pay the tax, and that's where it hurts. So it's always good to talk to somebody to understand, well, how much do I need in my savings account? How much can I put into my RRSP? Because it depends very much on you. It's very individual. Keeping some money aside in that savings account to put towards that car purchase is just plain smart banking, because that way you don't get double taxed on it. I'll kind of stop that there. Perhaps I'm thinking right now, and I'm just going to kind of refer to Gavin, you don't have to unmute, but I'm thinking that particular conversation, if somebody wants to talk more about it, we can push that to the end, okay? There's other vehicles, everybody. Children, RESPs, putting money aside in a plan, again, getting tax implications, reductions when that's happening, so that you can put your kids to school and a portion that will be paid for, all right? TFSA, tax-free savings accounts. Been out for a number of years now, and as an ex-banker, I can tell you is one of the best things that our government allowed to happen in a very long time. And why I say that is, when we plan, and as you walk through life from where you are right now going forward, where you've been even, it's about like things are going to change, or I need to revisit my plan relatively quickly. Every month, every 6 months, every year, I may need some cash. Where can I park it? TFSAs, you can put your money in these accounts. Now, while they don't always earn a lot of interest, but they're on par with most savings accounts, they're the ones that you can put money in there and you won't get taxed on what it earns. Because remember, if anything that you earn in terms of interest from a bank is actually income, and it does need to be reported. Usually they give a buffer zone. I think it's $200 or anything under that. You can report it, but there's really no implications. But you still should be straight up about it. Well, a tax-free savings account helps stop that. But the other thing is that if you need money out of there, it's not been treated off of your income. You can take it out and use it without any tax implications either. What a great place to put your money, especially if you just need to park it for a little while. And if I may, how about this for a little tidbit? As you're getting employed, you've got to make sure that your cash flow is there. What am I doing about later on? I'm not quite sure. Well, then take your money, put it into a TFSA, the tax-free savings account, let it accumulate. January, February come around, you're looking, okay, I put a little bit in RSP or not much. Now you can see what you got in the tax-free. I don't need it now, or I don't need half of it. Now you slip it into your RSP. See, it can come together in terms of a plan. It will flow together. That's why I'm such an advocate for these particular accounts. They're a great idea to have. And if you are involved with one, terrific. If you're not, please give it some consideration going forward when you can, okay? Now, there's more complicated things. You've heard money market mutual funds, etc. I would say these are longer term plans. It's places to go help be ownership in a company or get involved. Like a bond is basically the government. You're lending them some money, you want interest back. If you need to explore these options, this is where I put you back to your bank and talk to your financial planner, talk to your personal representative on the inside, and have that discussion about do they make sense or not. Normally, it would be any monies that you have above and beyond putting into a savings account for that stash. You can consider getting into that market, and also consider where you are in your life in terms of age as well. Because if you're getting into the 50, 55 plus era group, you don't want to get too risky. You want to make sure that your funds are available. You are going to have a shorter window in terms of wanting to get it back again, as opposed to those of you that are 25, 35, anything up to about 40-ish or so. You can be a little bit more, I don't want to use the term risky, but that's essentially what it is. You can take a little bit more financial risk because it's got a longer time to repair itself. Leave that conversation between you and a specialist, okay? But it's there. As you can see in terms of our list, it's the bond list because it's a bit more sophisticated and it's for a bit more of a more tight audience, okay? Okay, thank you for bearing with me on this. Now, with your cash, you will want to do some things with it. Of course, you want to keep the roof over your head, keep yourself fed, etc. But we also have other issues, right? Other things that we may want to entertain. And if we've just grabbed this particular heading, and I love this one. If you do have representatives, you got people back home that you need to help support a little bit or a lot, we do have international banking alliances. You probably know that. And if you don't, we do. It can be as simple as, like, for example, Scotiabank, they may have a branch in where you're from. That makes the transfer from here to there a lot simpler. There's Western Union. There's lots of banks have international connections where you can safely and relatively inexpensively transfer the monies from where you are to where it's needed, and it would be very safe, and you can sleep at night, okay? They have other things that are involved as well. We have PayPal or email transfers. I'm sure if you're familiar with that. PayPal is an environment that is, quite frankly, where you can pay out of your account in a safe environment and not worry about your bank account or those types of details being stolen. I believe Elon Musk invented that too. Am I not right in that one, Gavin? I think I am. Email transfers is very simple. Those of us that are doing banking, if you're doing the online banking, which I'm going to suggest that most of us are, then you'll see that transaction is available. You just make sure the details you've got for the people or entity you want to send it to is perfected, is correct. Talked about wire transfers. Now, remember, they do cost money. I talked about the Simply Financial for a reason. It's like the CIBC as an arm of their business, and they've offered these services for free. And I want to be a proponent, right? I want to be a champion of what I preach because I like you to save money. I want us to budget. I want all this good stuff. So I actually did. I'm sure I was with Scotiabank because I worked with them, but I went out and opened up back there was called a PC, right? President's Choice. Went with them for a little while, pretty inexpensive, and then they went to Simply. Well, it is as advertised, and there's other entities that do this too. Your checking account is free. There's no transactions attached to it. And if you want to e-transfer or transfer money around, no charge. And that was a big one for me. And again, you can imagine we all have our sides of our family, right? With 4 boys, once in a while, there's an expense needed here or there. It's nice to know I can just e-transfer to them and they get the whole thing. I'm not getting soaked for it. All right. So it's a very convenient and easy way to send money. Again, make sure that you've got your information perfected. Other ways to be able to have people have access, and I like the idea of having like the branch here and the branch back home, is if you have a joint account. And this a lot has happened. I've just talked to a young lady has a joint account with her mom on the other side of well, out your way actually, in British Columbia from in Southern Ontario. Having a joint account was perfect because she just put the money in the account, and her mom, of course, full access at her end, just needs her debit card, in she goes. It was easy. Now, a trusting relationship, absolutely, absolutely. But they designed that one. It was open for that particular reason. Okay. Anybody who has got a credit card and is sending money back home, we like to caution you, and we say, please speak to a credit counselor. Why we say that is we want to make sure that there is, this is like, here, come into my hockey world. I'm putting an extra set of pads on you here. Okay. I'm making sure your helmet fits because we want to make sure that what you're doing isn't being tracked by anybody else. You're not giving up information that can really harm you because there's unfortunately, there's just far too many unscrupulous characters and entities out there that will take advantage. And if they and they can even get your credit card number, for example, they won't tell you. They'll wait for you to pay it down and then they'll tap it and pay it down. And they'll try to do that. So we just say, speak to us before you do it because we can either A, help, and maybe there's another way to do it, and or B, talk a bit more about how to protect it and what to look for. Okay. So again, we'll push that one down a little bit because that particular discussion will take a bit more. All right. Our discussion to credit. All right. Well, here we go. Credit's very interesting here in Canada. It's something that if you're involved with it, you get this. We must be careful because there's a lot of, again, avenues to gain credit that are actually more harmful than they are good. All right. Here I go. Okay. First of all, knowing what credit is here in Canada. Well, it's borrowing money, promising to pay it back with interest, right? With the cost. The cost of credit is interest. How does an institution look at it? Well, they kind of look at it as, how much, what's your capacity? How much can you borrow? After you've done putting a roof over your head and putting food in your belly and putting money aside to transport yourself around, what's left in your budget? How much of a payment can you afford? That's what they look at to establish what credit is in their eyes. All right. So it's interesting. And why is it important? I think, again, this is down the no-brainer side. I won't belabor this. It's important very simply because, number one, if you have a good credit history, if you handle credit wisely, it demonstrates, number one, that you are reliable, that they'll grant it for you again, right? You're a good risk, right? The entities that do lend money, they're the banks and credit unions, of course they do. Landlords, essentially, are they lending? Yeah, they are especially interested in your credit file, right? As employers may be as well. Okay, so when you're looking at why is it so important to be able to have good credit, again, the no-brainers go from I want to borrow money down to who's looking at my bureau. And there's a quick short footnote here. You've probably heard this. When anybody's looking at your credit files, and we're going to talk about where they do this, they need your expressed consent to do that. You must give them, and it's supposed to be written permission. It can be leaned on from a previous agreement, but that's how it's supposed to go. The banks, credit unions, landlords, and sometimes employers may want to see your credit file. It depends what you're into, right? If you're into the banking world, into the securities world, or you're working in IT where you're responsible for a lot of maybe very sensitive information, the transferring of funds of small or great amounts, they may want to see your credit file just to make sure that there's no issues, no tendencies to want to siphon a little money over our way. If I can put it like that, that's what they're essentially looking for. Okay, not me, them. Now, while we walk down this, remember using credit here in Canada is hugely important. We must be careful because of the cost. The cost can be dear. We've done this quick chart for you so you can see the implications. It's not rocket science, but it hits the point home so that you can see this. Borrowing money has a cost to it. We've grabbed an example for you that is, quite frankly, it's a normal limit that I see, and I'm going to give you a rate that's actually not pretty good in terms of credit cards. Here's the terms. So what do we mean? Well, if you had a credit card for $3,000, that's an average limit, by the way, that we see and I counsel for. 19.9 or roughly 20%. Yeah, from our standpoint, from a credit card, that's actually a normal rate. It's not the highest, not the lowest, but it's not the highest either. What does that mean to you if you have one? Well, the payments generally are 2%. So they're going to want about $60. So in other words, if you board it and you're right at max, right, they'll just say, as long as you pay $60 a month, we're good. You're going to stay in good standing with us. Yeah, okay. 52 plus years later, if that's what you stick to, you'll finally pay that piece of credit off. And that, by the way, is on your statement now. They're supposed to show you how long it would take you to pay off your credit card based on a minimum payment. Okay. Isn't that kind of neat? That particular $3,000 card now costs you over 12 grand in interest, which of course your total debt goes over 15 grand. Let's tweak this. It's not that you can't have one, of course, you can have one. Let's just make sure we operate it because they can be costly here in Canada. Let's take the same credit card, the same interest rate. Let's just, we got a job, we're working. We can now augment our payment a little bit. Yeah, the 60 wasn't a problem. I can tack an additional 40 bucks on there. I'm proposing I'm going to pay $100 a month. Oh boy, 3.5 years. Huge difference. You have just saved yourself, what is that? $11,000 in interest. And not to mention the peace of mind, because who goes to bed and wants to do that, right? So now that $3,000 credit card and the purchase is just over 4,100 bucks. Huge difference, right? Keep this tucked away. This is an important piece. We counsel to this. We have a budgeting discussion. We speak to this. This is the piece that can drive you to make sure that you look after that credit card. Don't let it run on, because this is the piece too that when we talk to people in terms of counseling, this is the one that runs on and they never really pay off, and we have to address a lot of these. Okay. Now, where does this all go? What does this mean? Okay, you say, Phil, we get these pieces. You're talking about our credit report. Well, all the information I'm talking about right now is you want to make sure that your credit report is as good a shape as you can have it by doing a couple very simple things. But what is it, first of all? Well, and you may know who this is. We have two companies here in Canada that are we call them credit bureaus. They're firms that hold these reports. Are the entities we do business with report to them? All they can do, these credit reporting agencies, is they hold on to the information. They can't change it. So if Gavin is a lender, he lent me $1,500, I didn't pay it well, he may want to report it to one of them, but he has to give the backup that I indeed owed the money. Now it'll cost him to do it, and they'll hold it. And you're going to go on what Gavin said. If I see it and I say, oh, that's not right, it's wrong, they'll say, well, first prove it. Let's see what you've got. So they won't change it just because. If it's wrong, then they'll change it. Okay. But anyways, that's who these people are. Okay. And it's important to keep it straight. We throw this out there, and I'm going to put it on the table right now. As a Canadian, it is a really good idea, and I'll come back to this. It's a really good idea to make sure that you go and get a copy of your credit reports, plural, once a year, at least once a year. And I'll tell you where they're at. And the reason is that to manage your own affairs, to keep yourself in the know about who you are and what other entities are looking at that you allow, look at it yourself. Because if it's not right, it can be fixed. It can be repaired going down the right channels. This is one of the nice things about having a not-for-profit like us in your hip pocket as well. Gavin's got anybody that comes to him, they need to talk to somebody about their credit report or how to resolve it. And if he doesn't have the answers, he can come to us and say, hey, listen, can I send you these people? Yes. It doesn't cost you anything. We'll help not just read the report for you, we'll help you fix any issues if they're there, okay? Now, this particular report has got a couple of pieces to it. It wants to know who you are, who you're doing business with, is that business in good shape, how long you've been doing it, and do you have any small claims court or any other issues that maybe that you didn't attend to over a certain amount of time, right? 7 years more stuff starts falling off your report if it's too old, okay? Now, how it does this is it takes information, it breaks it down. It wants to know your reports in Canada. What type of a loan is it? Because there's one that actually helps your score better than the others. And then it wants to know, all right, so is that piece operating well? Or the term you may hear is it paid as agreed? That means good. That you'll heard, I'm R1. If that you say, what the heck does R1 mean? I'm going to show you. It just means somebody's paying their account as they're supposed to, right? Now, everything's a little different, and there's, sorry, excuse me for that. The letters that you have, it depends on the type of loan it is, right? You have credit cards, lines of credit. They're the ones that have a letter of R attached to it. A car loan has an I. A mortgage, take a guess. That's right, M. Are you leasing a car? That's right, it's an L. See, the letter just denotes or able to record for the reader the type of loan that it is, because each one has a certain personality to it. Now, I won't delve into that. So just knowing that it's there is the important piece. And it's not just knowing what it is also, is it up to date or not, which has a letter attached to it. Okay. What those credit ratings do is the math is done behind the scenes to come up with, yeah, you heard it, your credit score, right? Does the math. Let's see these accounts, they're up to date, good, they're not over limit, which is great. Now let's put that in perspective now. So what do they look at here? Like what is your bank looking at behind the scenes? They're looking at this. They're going to, the information on there is weighted like this. So if you took a look at that, it's like studying for a test, if you will. You say, okay, what questions are important to know, what ones are not so important. If you want to know how to get your credit score going the right way, if you don't have one, or if you've had one that may have had a little bit of a kick in the pants, you want to correct it, look at the first two are the biggies. Number one is it looks at your payment history. If you got accounts, get them as soon as you can up to date and keep them up to date. Keep them paid as agreed, right? If they asked that Visa to be paid on the 25th of the month, pay it on the 23rd. Make sure they see it on time. And the amount that you owe. Like, this is where we can't go crazy asking for all kinds of credit, because if we do, the problem is it will build up on us, and we don't want that to happen. Having a credit card or two is fine. A car loan is fine. Having 4 or 5 credit cards, okay, amount owed. The other term you may hear they use is called credit utilization. It means that if you got 5 credit cards, are they all being used? Are they all at their limit? Because if they are, your score will go down. Where do you want to land? Okay. If you bought into this, you see the chart there. It's kind of self-explanatory, but again, we can touch on that after. It comes down to this: like, where do we want to be? Well, it says there your score can go between 300 and 900. The reality is, and 900 is perfect. Nobody gets perfect score, so don't worry about that. What you got to know is that when you are looking at your score, once you start scoring 600 and even up to 650, you're in the area where lenders will start to look at you. There's not just an automatic no, if you will, okay? Because you've got enough history there. You've got a couple of accounts that are starting to report better, that they'll say, all right, if you want something, maybe something small, maybe a small credit card, all right? When you get to 700 and up, 750 and up, that means that you're in the better risk zone, and that as long as you can afford it and it makes sense, you'll probably get what you ask for. I mean, I always say within reason, right? Don't ask to go buy a yacht if you're earning $10,000 a year. That's probably not going to get approved anyways, but yeah, I think you know what I'm saying here, okay? So that's where the score range is there. So if you are hitting anywhere 650 to 700 and up, you're in a good place in Canada with your score. That's where you want to be. And other things that attach to this, insurance companies may look at this. The higher your score, the better the rates you get, right? And your accounts too, the better risk you are, the lower your monthly fees, if you have an account you have to pay fees on, can be, because they also know that the higher your score, the easier it is for you to go to another institution to get what you want if that one won't help you out. That's just shopping, all right? Okay, well done. Here's the two. Equifax and TransUnion, there's their websites. They offer 2 versions. You can get online, pay for it, and get your score right away. You have access to it for 30 days. You can print it up, or you can ask them to send you a copy for free. They'll mail it to you. You won't get your score, but you'll get a copy of your report. Okay, they're there. And we were having discussion, Gavin and I, about this information. This will be available to you, so you can jot this down, or if you want, we will have available for you so you can access it fairly easily. Okay. Now, your history, it doesn't transfer out of country. It stops at the borders. This is, people were thinking even from the States. No, it doesn't come from the States either. It won't. I mean, they can collect money over here, but your credit report is unique to your country. All right. How do you establish? How do you start? Or how do you correct? 2 really good suggestions there. The bottom of the credit cards, of course, get a small limit, operate it and don't get in trouble with it. A cell phone on a contract. See, for a long time, they didn't report to the credit bureaus, and they do now. So if you've got a cell phone, you're on a monthly contract, keep it up to date. You got yourself the opportunity to build or rebuild your credit history. What about the other side? Well, these don't report, and they say that they do. They are not. Myth, this is probably number 3 debunked right now. Visa debits, MasterCard debit cards, they don't, because they're not a bona fide loan. They give you access basically to your own cash or a prompt, but this is not a loan. It can be great to you transact business, but it just doesn't do anything for your credit file. That's all we're saying here. It's like prepaid cell phones, prepaid credit cards. Where do you get the prepaid credit card money from? You get it directly from your own account, and you can't use that card again until you reload it again out of your own funds. That's not a loan, right? Payday loans. They don't report to the credit bureau, everybody, please. And if they tell you they do, they are misguiding you. They don't. And they are the most expensive loan in Canada to have, and they're relentless. And it's, I mean, separate discussion on that. Absolutely, we'll try to stay away from them. Bottom line, if they try to tell you that, oh, you come with us, we'll help you build your credit. No, because they don't report, but they're designed differently than most loans. They call it the payday or cash checking loans are designed on the premise that you need cash short term from one payday to the next, whether you get paid every week. They'll give you a weekly one. Every 2 weeks, they'll give you a loan, expect you back in 2 weeks. You get the idea. Most times you can't repay them in full. They'll say, well, give us a little bit now. And they technically rewrite the loan. Okay, they rewrite it, subject to rewriting fees. Hence, the interest rate that you can pay on these, because remember, the interest rate on paper will show you a maximum of 20%. But when you put the fees in there, they'll go between 380 and 440% per year. They can get away with that because it's under fees. Very difficult to get away from. Right? Unless it's an emergency, like we just say, we treat this like the social disease of our industry. Okay, that's what we do because they're very difficult. Okay, enough said on that. Now, we know that using credit, use it wisely. You don't need more than one credit card here in Canada to build good credit. And quite frankly, I would say to you, it comes down to what you can organize yourself. If you only need one, use one. If you need 2, okay, 2 won't hurt your credit score. It just becomes a little hard to manage. That's all. Okay. And 1, of course, won't wait for the other one for you to make a payment and get back to them. They want their money. If you do, they'll just collect their own money. Okay. Just make sure that you know that whatever you've got, you can handle it. If you ever stumble into any issues, any problems, you get a hold of a professional that can help you out. Okay. Bottom line. But don't ignore debt. We've seen too much of that. Yeah, now I've touched on this. This is what I mean. I can expedite this a little bit, speed up a little bit. I'm imploring you all, please check your credit facts or your report once a year, knowing that when you look at your report, it does not count against you. Okay, it's called a soft inquiry. Hard means a company that you applied for credit wants to see your file. Soft means don't care about your score. We just want a little update. That's all. You look, and nobody sees soft but you. That's it. The creditor, anybody looking at your file does not see soft inquiries. They always say 1 a year. The reality is if you need to do 2 a year, you can do that too. Some people do need to because they may be going through a situation that they want to keep their eye on it. That's fine. Still a soft hit will not, I repeat everybody, will not affect your credit score. Okay. There can be mistakes on them. They can be fixed. They do have a process and it doesn't normally take that long. But if there is a mistake, address it right away and get it fixed up. Okay. Anybody has an issue with that, you let us know. We'll help walk you through that as well. All right. We talked about payday loans. I got on this one for you. One last catch on them. If you get involved, we touched on this. They always sign you up with an automatic withdrawal. That's the hook, right? The hook is because if you don't pay, they've got your account. Okay. Quickly, if a payday loan office is usually a piece of a bigger setup. They can have anywhere from 5 to 55 different corporate names. So if you apply to Payday Loan John, and that's how it comes out of your account, you want to stop payment on it, you got to give them the bank exact information as to what to stop. And if they see that, they'll have another 50 Ontario Inc. numbers. Everyone perfectly legal to try to come back and get that money. So be aware that if you do go after payday loan, they will be looking for that. And yes, there are ways to manage that, of which I won't speak to right now. If you need more detail on that in chat, we'll chat about that, okay? So since we discussed that, we don't need to go into it. We're on the home stretch now here, Gavin, and you probably know that, but here we go, everybody. Fraud prevention. Well, first of all, getting a report is the huge piece to it. It's about making sure that it can be anything to do with your credit or debit cards, of course, reporting, prevention, and who to call, okay? Bottom line is you make sure that you protect your debit PIN card at all times. May I also put to you that if you have a particular celebration, you've had your debit card for a little while and you've used it a few times, it doesn't matter what, you've been into a celebration uptown. Here in Barrie, we've got the one at Rib Fest, and it's just a wonderful thing. Not lately, of course, but you know what? Change your PIN number. As a matter of fact, as long as you can take a little break, give your bank a call and have them send you a new debit card. Change the number. Nothing wrong with that, because it's a refresh, it's a restart, it's another way to help protect yourself, right? So again, change your PIN number, sure, but don't be afraid. I don't know. It depends on how active you are with it. Every 6 months or a year, change your debit card. I do. It's a service they provide. It does not, I repeat, it does not hurt your credit, okay? Please don't, all right? We talked about checking your accounts regularly. Of course, do that. And if there is any issue, and if you ever see an issue with your account, whether you're checking through your checking or savings account, a credit card, the first place you call is your financial institution. You get them to put holds on things, you spot right away, because if you don't, and you wait for too long to report it, they may not give you your money back. They have a certain protection, and they've been pretty good about helping people out that do lose money when you report it immediately. Another reason to make sure you check it often, okay? Please do that. Same thing with the credit card. I'm not going to get into that. It's to say you keep your number to yourself. Don't be afraid to change that number once in a while as well. You'll see it get version 2. It doesn't cost you any extra money. It's good protection, and quite frankly, it keeps everybody off your beaten path, if you will. It's good. It's a good feeling to know that you start fresh again, and that number is very unique to you. Only you know it. All right. Criminals. Well, our system is kind of interesting. What do they look for? Again, probably no-brainers here for you. Any personal data, any personal information, their usernames, your nicknames they'll even look for. They're looking for account numbers, PINs. They'll do it in a variety of ways, right? There are all kinds of ways that they'll do this. They'll send you phishing emails. They'll try to call you. If you saw me, I'm just about 5'7", and I got a letter. Apparently, I'm related to a tribe down in South Africa that the average height's about 7.5 feet tall. I thought that was kind of interesting. They brought that to my attention. This is the kind of ridiculous stuff that we see. We got lots of stuff flying around all the time. What do they want to do? They want to try to open accounts in your name, and you do have to be careful, all right? And be careful about and it's even things as simple as opening accounts for you. This is the wrap up, and this one's kind of relevant. And Gavin, I'll get into this one with everybody. When I was doing some work with a lady back several years ago now, she took my advice. She's going to go, it's time to look at her information. And she found out through doing her credit file that she had a bank account opened up in a small town in southwestern Ontario that had like a 5-figure in it. It's over $40,000. She was elated. And of course, well, good for you. I think maybe you just forgot it. And she had no idea it was there. And I said, okay, hold on. You didn't know it was yours. You know what? Report it. Because that's a signal, right? If you don't know it, that there can be, why is it opened up for? That's probably laundered money. Anyway, she did that. She called them. I'm going to explain this. I'll go quickly here, so forgive me. What happened was she took my advice, called the bank and called the police. Within, I think she said just about, so let's say a little over 2 hours, the RCMP were at her door, knocking on the door, and they basically treated her like a criminal. Now, she didn't do anything wrong. What was the problem? Well, we discovered all this stuff, but she hadn't done a credit report in over 5 years. So, of course, the RCMP, as they told her as they left, they said, we're sorry we had to treat you like a criminal, but understand that with the evidence is there that you may just be a jilted lover, you may be a partner that decided to get out and they wouldn't get you out of the deal. They see that all the time. So the other thing is you hadn't checked your report in over 5 years. So it tends to indicate that you may be in on this. Now, she wasn't. She got off. But the important lesson going there is she learned she has to look after herself better, including her financial self. That's what I'm believing with yourself as well. Okay. Fraud protection is a huge piece of this. And take what you need, right? You've got make sure all your PIN numbers are always protected. When you step out in public, please don't take any more than what you need. Driver's license, if you drive, I suggest probably your health card's not a bad idea just in case something happens. And you want a debit and or a credit card with you in case you need some financial transaction while you're out. Other than that, what do you really need, right? Trust your instincts. You just go with what you need. All right. That's the bottom line there. And again, if you need help, that's what entities like us are for, to help you walk through these issues and help keep you safe. Okay. If you do get any reporting of fraud, the bottom line is that you do it in the order that is supposed to be done. Trust your instincts. You call the bank and let them know you've seen it. Then you call the police and let them know that there's a problem, because they'll prepare a report for you. And that report is important because they'll give you a report number. And that ID number is what you contact Equifax or TransUnion with to let them know there's a problem. And they take that number and they put it on your file to help protect you for the next little while up against that particular incident of fraud. Okay. This is all, we have this information for you. Now, it pushes us right to, we're getting down to the end of it, so that you know, if it sounds, whatever you're getting involved with, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Please be very careful. If something doesn't seem legitimate, ask. Rely on other sources that you know to be reasonable and responsible, and if I may, righteous, so that you can do your homework and not get caught, if you will, with financially bad entities, if you will. All right, Gavin, I'm going to pause now because I put everybody through a big learning curve here. And I think it's time for us to stop and regroup and say, all right, what else can we do? So over to you now, Gavin.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that interesting presentation. I think a lot of our listeners, we certainly did learn a lot, especially for newcomer Canadians who may not know this kind of information. So Phil, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen.
Okay, let me do this right. There you go.
All right. Before we move on to the Q&A, I do want to jump briefly into a short info session about the Career Loans program and how we can help internationally trained newcomers as well. But during this time, if you do have any other questions, please do write it in the Q&A section, and we'll be happy to get to you afterwards. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so today I just want to talk briefly about the Career Loans program. You saw the video. If you were here early on before Phil's presentation, you saw the short video. But the Career Loans virtual program is a program funded by the Government of Canada, coordinated by Achēv, and we are partnered with HSBC Bank. So what is Career Loans? Career Loans is a fully virtual service for internationally trained individuals in Alberta or Saskatchewan. What do? We provide free career support services that includes counseling, and we help with an assistance to a microloan application. At the end of the day, our ultimate goal, we're trying to help internationally trained individuals, these skilled newcomers, return to a desired career in Canada. Who's eligible? So first of all, you need to be an internationally trained individual in a regulated or non-regulated occupation and trade, currently residing in Alberta or Saskatchewan. Your status should be a permanent resident, Canadian citizen, or convention refugee with a minimum Canadian language benchmark level of 5. If you have more questions about that, feel free to send us an email. We'd be happy to let you know if you're eligible. What are the program features of career loans? Free career and financial counseling. We have our expert counselors who will do a one-on-one virtual counseling session with you. We offer low interest microloans of up to $15,000 to help you get back into your desired career or an alternative career. Our expert counselors will work with you and give referrals to local employment services in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, and they're experts in the accreditation process. You want to return to your career, we're experts at the accreditation process. Or maybe you want to talk about alternative careers, our expert counselors are here for you as well. What are some of the other benefits of joining career loans? Exclusive content. We have a new e-learning website about resume building, about job search strategies, about interview skills, and a lot of other exclusive contents for members only. We also have our expert counselors. I mentioned them a few times. They're ready and waiting to help out internationally trained individuals. They're equipped with the latest industry trends, so please take advantage of their expertise. And of course, live guest speakers like our webinar today. And I'm going to thank Phil again, once again. We'll get to the Q&A after, because I'm sure there are plenty of questions. But before that, how do we help? So first of all, you need to sign up for the Career Loans program at our website, www.careerloans.ca. Within 2 business days, one of our counselors will reach out to you and schedule a one-on-one appointment. This is a virtual counseling session where you're going to talk about your career plans, your goals, what are the next steps, and how can we help you? After that, if needed, you'll get some referrals to local service providers. These are personalized referrals based on your situation. And lastly, if you're interested, if you want, a microloan is available for you. This isn't mandatory. So if you just want the free counseling, definitely we're here for you. But listen, if you have some things you want to do, if you want to take some tests, if you want to upgrade your skills, then the microloan is available for that. Our counselors will help you with this application. The microloan is provided by our partners at HSBC. It's up to $15,000 with a minimum of $1,500. The interest rate is currently HSBC Prime plus 2%, and the loan repayment period is up to 4 years. What can you do with the loan? Credential assessments, accreditation, exam fees, training, upgrading, bridging programs, basically anything you need to make the transition into your desired career smooth. That can be an eligible expense for the microloan. If you have more questions, do get in touch with us, do ask our counselors, and we'll try our best to answer any questions about the microloan or the free counseling, anything. How do you get in touch with us? www.careerloans.ca is the best place to go. That's our website. That's where you can register. Our email is also there, info@careerloans.ca. If you're in Alberta, if you're in Saskatchewan, we do have specific emails, 1-800 toll-free numbers. Feel free to call them. There'll be an email with all this information sent out afterwards, so don't worry. And if you're on social media, please do follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Stay up to date with the latest career loans news. All right. So that's it for career loans. If you have any other questions, please do get in touch with us. Now we're going to jump over to the Q&A section. So I'm going to ask Phil to please turn on your video once again, and we can tackle some of these questions. All right.
Okay, I'm here.
Hopefully you had a chance to catch your breath. It was a long presentation, but
I got the tea going, everybody, so I'm okay.
A few questions in the Q&A, and if you still have any more questions, please feel free to add on as we go. I see one in the chat first, so I'm going to take that on first.
Okay.
It's about the credit report. Does a credit report include rent non-payment?
As such, it won't. It has to have been taken to a collector to do that. Rent non-payment won't show up on your credit file as a rule, okay?
Okay.
So that's the real short answer to it. All right, how's that?
Sounds good to me. Jumping into the Q&A, can you help with specific programs or resources that can assist with filing our taxes? What are some suggestions you have for that?
You know what? In the community, we have the resources. They're not at my fingertips right now. The only one I got right now is the one offered through the CRA themselves. But if you're not a CRA fan, there's a couple within communities that do have them. If you don't know where they are, let Gavin know. If you still need help, I'll get them and I'll pull them out for you. Okay. Now I'll send them to you, Gavin, so you've got them. Okay. Just let me know. Sorry about that. That's the only one that I know right now.
Okay. Thank you. And of course, we'll have Phil, your email will be passed on as well. So if you want to get in touch, some people might not want to ask questions on the webinar. There is Phil's direct email. We'll be passing that on as well.
Right.
Okay. The next question, which banks offer international accounts? Any insights into that, Phil?
Yeah, most of them do. I'll tell you right now, most of them do. The ones in terms of it's about the presence outside of Canada, of course. Always, Scotiabank always had a good presence out there, as did Bank of Montreal. But you've also got like HSBC is another one, right? Like they've got international, if I can, prowess. So there's three big ones, and the other big one that tends to be out there, who never used to, was the RBC. They've got a lot of other branches. So there's lots of international presence with them. The other ones, not so much. Okay, you'll see the TD a little bit out there. National Bank of Canada, they're a Montreal-based bank. I mean, they're a good bank, don't get me wrong, but they are more about North America, really. Okay.
All right, moving on. I'm a newcomer. Which local community agents can I search to help when it comes to filing the taxes?
Back where I would need to know, here's what I would need sent. Where are you exactly? And CRA online will be one right off the bat. You can do the taxes through them and you can file it and they'll go through them automatically, okay? But if you would send me where you are, we will help you with that particular question, because there was an entity, H&R Block was doing a piece for students and then for newcomers. I haven't seen it renewed, but I'm not sure that they're not doing it. So tell me where you are and let's see what we can find. Okay, there's a couple out there.
Awesome. So please do get in touch with Phil after the webinar. His email will be available, and together can get more information on this.
Absolutely.
Could you replay the? So someone's asking you to send us a specific slide about who to call, I guess, during the fraud component or any other who to call. The slides will be shared with us, right, Phil? So afterwards, it will be in the email. So you don't have to do that now, but it will be in the email. Keep an eye out on your inbox. If you're registered for this webinar, it will be in your inbox after. Phil will send me the slides after. So that's the most convenient way to get the message across. Thank you.
Absolutely. Done.
This is one question for career loan, so I'll answer this myself. What's the interest rate for a micro loan of $15,000 payment over 4 years? So the interest rate for our micro loan, agreed with HSBC, is HSBC Prime plus 2%. It won't change over. It's a flat interest fee. I believe, I want to say the total is 4.45% at the moment. So that's the interest rate over 4 years. Is the loan approved? Okay, so another question about career loans. I'll tackle this as well. If the loan is not approved by, how do we get it approved? Of course, we hope all our clients get the loan approved. Our expert counselors work really closely with you to put together an application which can get you approved. Of course, unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't happen. You might not get approved. And we will do our best, work with the counselor, work with your counselor and see how we can go together and put together something else. But it does happen. It's not 100% guarantee. Of course, we do our best so that you can get approved for a microloan. This is a question which goes back to an earlier question. Thank you for a response on filing our taxes. I would appreciate more specifics. So I think, it's about the information you mentioned earlier, Phil. You don't have it on hand. But if you do get in touch with Phil, I would say that's the best way to go about it if you want more specific information. Is that correct?
Yeah, because we'll match it to the area that the request is coming from. That'll be huge.
Yeah. Awesome. So then going back to career loans question, how long should the person be here to still qualify for the loan? There isn't really a limit like that. We like to say, career loans is a program for internationally trained newcomers, internationally trained individuals. But there isn't really a specific, like cutoff. Generally speaking, we like to say 10 years, but just speak with our counselors if you have any specific questions, and we'll be happy to work on it by case situation. Last question, is the interest 2% plus prime yearly, or is it the total interest? It's forever how long the repayment process is. It's locked in. It's a locked in interest, HSBC prime plus 2%. So if it goes up, if prime goes up, you don't have to worry about that. It's locked in. Okay, I think that's about all the questions. Phil, do you have anything else you want to add before we conclude the webinar?
Last piece is you'll get the slides, and make sure that if there is any follow-up needed, I'll say it one last time, don't hesitate, okay? Please, everybody, reach out, let us know, all right? And if you lose my information, you've got Gavin there too. Let him know, and he'll make sure he'll get it, okay? Awesome. That's all. We're available if you need us, okay? Thanks for your time. I really enjoyed having a chat with everybody today.
We did get one more question, Phil.
Okay.
I'm not trying to keep you longer than we intended, but someone did slide in one more question. If someone finds themselves in debt over 20K with no means of repayment, what would you suggest they do to minimize bad credit situation?
Well, that's the tough part, because what the process goes like this. It's where I'm at right now. So, job, cash, can pay. Then if you get cash flow interruptus, that's what I call it. You say, I can't pay right now. It's about regrouping immediately, reaching out to the entities, tell them I can't pay just right now, because if you're not working, that can't take anything from you, can't give it up. If it goes past the 3-month mark, then what you're looking at is, what do I need to be able to provide everybody that shows them I can't pay? Because remember, every entity understands what I'm about to say. There's kind of like 3 basic needs that come, and why creditors are so careful. We know that the debts come after basic needs. So number 1, make sure you've got the roof over your head, of course. Number 2, food on the table, which is, and I would say number 3, lights on. And really number 4 is you have access to a little bit of cash for transportation. That could be the job coming up, interviews, or medical appointments, okay? Those are the big ones. After that, that's what we're looking for. If there's cash after that, creditors want to have a discussion about, well, what piece of that can we have? If with those 4, there's no more, you must say that. And then all you can do is wait to be in a position where it can change. Because then what will happen is it comes down to time. You can't pay right now. They can't force that. There's nothing else coming in. You move on. If you can't stop what the credit reporting agency has in place. It's just there, all right? What you remember is that if I'm here right now, I'm sorry, the light in the background, put my head in the way. But if it comes down, you say, oh, I'm sliding, the credit stays on your file for X number of years. If you maybe know that. Slow credit stays on your file for basically 6 years. Credit bankruptcy stay on for, so actually over, but call it 7 years. All right. Those 2 are true. They always hold true. What happens is that if you're in a prolonged position, if you have a debt that you haven't addressed, means you haven't paid, you haven't made any alternate payment arrangements, and it's been basically just laying there for 2 years or more, the opportunity for that entity to litigate or to sue you has come and gone. They can't take you to court anymore. Now, it'll still show in your credit file, but they can't come and sue you and try to garnish you wages or future wages. So what it comes down to is, tell them you can't pay, make it monthly if you have to, okay? And you have to accept where it's going to go. You can't change that, but there is some protection, and it can be rebuilt again. And as a matter of fact, you can rebuild it even with within, I can't pay, all of a sudden I can pay. there's ways to go about it. And that is, maybe you can't pay what you were paying. Maybe you have to find a more creative solution, because I don't want to go bankrupt. I don't want to go upside down. You're right. So let's get not talking to a trustee. Let's talk to, well, like for an entity like us, we will go to creditors and say, hey, you know what? They can't pay full pop. Here's what we're recommending. They don't want to go. So speak to an entity like us so that, and we're not the only one that does this, right? Gavin, we're not the only ones, but when we do it, we can help you get the next level, right?
All right.
I'll stop there. That's a lot of information. I'm sorry if I got a little bit busy, but that's how it works.
Very detailed explanation. Thank you very much. This question is related to stocks. What are the best stocks, or even does it help build credit? Stocks.
Stocks do not. Stocks an investment. They're a great piece of somebody's portfolio, absolutely. And our ability to speak to them is very limited because of what our licensing says. Did I do it in a past life? Yeah, I did. I was right in the banking industry. But for what I do, my agreement with the CCS and with Gavin and his group is I can talk kind of about them, but not in detail. So stocks is part of an investment piece. Talk to your professional, that's what I say. Yeah,
but the bottom line, it doesn't help with building credit. To answer the question, no. I think this is the last question. It's a general question. If I have bad credit, how can I improve my credit?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, acknowledge everything. You talk to somebody like us. We need to summarize where you're at right now. What do you show as debt? Then let's put that together as what needs to be addressed, if anything, and then let's look at what's coming in the door and putting a piece in place that will help you on your report. Is it the cell phone that you need? Is it a credit card? Let's look at because it's about what income comes in as to what you can pay, right? That's what it comes down to. So,
right. All right. And I think that's about it for all the questions. If you do have any more questions, please do feel free to get in touch with Phil or Career Loans. And I will share that information with you right now. Let me share my screen. So we do have an upcoming webinar. It's March 23rd. It's about career exploration for skilled newcomers. More details will be coming soon. So if you're registered to this webinar, you're on our mailing list, stay tuned. March 23rd is the date for our next webinar. I mentioned this earlier as well, but please do take 1 minute of your time to fill out our survey. It really helps us with figuring out how we can improve our future career loans webinars. This survey link will also be sent in my follow-up email, so keep an eye out for that. And last but not least, if you want to get in touch with Career Loans, our website, www.careerloans.ca. We have the Saskatchewan and Alberta toll-free numbers, emails, which are available. Or if you even want to speak with Phil directly, like I said, the website is nomoredebts.org or phillip.wilkins@nomoredebts.org. With that being said, Phil, I want to thank you once again for joining us. I'm sure a lot of our audience members found this information very useful. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for treating me so well, everybody. My best, and take care. Have a great day, okay?